Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to VU Sports Wired. I'm Jackson Martin. Alongside me is Kristen Sheft. We got a lot to talk about in the world of Vanderbilt sports today, starting off with your baseball team took 2 out of 3 from the number 19 Georgia Bulldogs this weekend. Is this going to be a turning point for the team looking forward in what has been a disappointing season so far? And next up is South Carolina this weekend as the 2-time defending national champions come to Hawkins Field. After that, we're going to talk about the women's basketball team who unfortunately got knocked out of the tournament this past week, losing to Duke. And then we're going to take a walk down Natchez Trace down to the practice fields and look at what's been going on in spring practice with the football team. Me and Chris are going to make some #bold predictions about that football season. And then we're going to take a walk around the bubble and see what's going on in other Vanderbilt sports. So let's get to it, starting off with the baseball team, taking 2 out of 3 from Georgia this weekend. And we saw a much better pitching performance from these Commodores than we have seen in the past weeks. What, other than that, spurred on this team to a victory over a ranked opponent for the first time this season?
Well, I think Vanderbilt's doing a better job at home right now. 9-8, they jumped above 500 with that win, and you see their offense is starting to click a little bit. You have 3 players now who are hitting above 300, leading the way: Mike Yashkrimsky, Anthony Gomez, and Spencer Navin actually doing a great job for the Vanderbilt team.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then we saw just phenomenal performances from Tyler Beatty this weekend. Saturday struck out 8 Bulldogs. Then you saw Kevin Zomek only gave up 1 hit in his Friday start. Fortunately, it was a home run and ended up being the deciding run in that 1-0 loss to Georgia. But 2 come-from-behind victories. Saturday, the Commodores had a walk-off hit from Conrad Greger to take the victory. And then on Sunday, 4 runs in the 8th inning to overcome a slow start. But we saw an offense that generated some power for maybe the first time all year.
One of the interesting things, though, I think a lot of Vanderbilt fans were a little nervous on Sunday. You had left-handed pitcher Drew Verhagen coming in relief. Made it a little interesting. He gave up 4 hits, 1 run. So I think that the fact that Vanderbilt was able to pull through with that victory and complete their come-from-behind win was a great morale booster for this Vanderbilt team. Absolutely.
And you have to wonder, in a season that's been so disappointing so far, the team is 9-15. After starting off the year ranked number 10 in the country by Baseball America. Is this going to be a turning point for the team, and is this going to be what is ultimately the catalyst to hopefully an NCAA tournament berth? Remember, the Commodores have to finish above 500 on the year to get into the tournament. As it stands, 6 games under 500 with most of the conference schedule still left. That's going to be a tough road to get back to the tournament.
Yeah. And if you look at the teams in the top 25 right now, you have 3 SEC teams in the top 5 alone. You have a great Florida team that's been on a roll right now. Arkansas and Kentucky have all moved into that top 5 position. So it's a wide open field in the SEC right now. Tough competition, but if Vanderbilt is going to be successful, they really need to get better on the road. 0-7 right now, so that's been one of the things that Vanderbilt needs to really improve on heading into the rest of the season.
Absolutely. In conference, not just top heavy. There are 7 teams throughout in the top 25 right now. Georgia, the team we just beat, just holding on there at number 25 right now. But another thing that could possibly spur this team on, the return of TJ Pecoraro on Saturday. Pitched 1 2/3 innings, struck out 2, only gave up a bunt hit and hit a guy. But he was touching 93 on the radar gun and looked very much like the TJ Pecoraro that we had last year, and a guy that was expected to come in and maybe be our number 1 starter this year. That's got to be a huge boost looking forward for the team.
Yeah, and Coach Corbin talked a lot about the return of Pecoraro after the game on Sunday, and he said this means a lot to this ball club. They relied on him last year. His injury after going through Tommy John surgery just killed this Commodore team. So the fact that he's young and back in the lineup, this should really help the Commodores throughout the year.
Right, and if he can get stretched out and back into starting form, you have a weekend rotation that's now Zomek, Pecoraro, and maybe Beatty, if he can keep up the control that he's shown through his last 2 starts. That's as good of a starting rotation as anyone outside of Florida has in the SEC right now, and could certainly be the type of weekend rotation that can get this team back into the swing of things and propel them to that NCAA tournament. But first up on that road is going to be the number 11 South Carolina Gamecocks, who, by the way, are in last place in the SEC East right now, and that may just tell you how difficult this division is at the number 11 team in the country. 0-6 so far, swept by Kentucky and Florida. Your Commodores, of course, also were swept by Florida in Gainesville earlier this year. But as the South Carolina teams won the last 2 national championships, but just like Vanderbilt, lost a ton of talent off of last year's ball club. So it's going to be a very interesting series to watch.
And this South Carolina team is out for blood right now. They have a lot to prove right now, especially as the defending national champion. So expect this to be a great matchup here on West End.
Absolutely. Now, a team on West End that's also unfortunately struggled recently, well, just very recently, the women's basketball team eliminated from the NCAA tournament with a loss to Duke last week. Commodores were able to play the Blue Devils in Memorial Gym, but it wasn't enough as they fell, I believe it was 98-80 to the Blue Devils. Shame to see them go, but probably expected. Duke was a number 2 seed in the tournament.
It's actually interesting. Former Commodore Skip Bayless actually said that the Duke-Vanderbilt game looked like a shooting clinic. That's how on fire the Duke Blue Devils were. At one point in the first half, they shot 68%, 65% behind the arc. So that Blue Devils team would not miss a basket. Vanderbilt played them well for the first 7 minutes. The scores even tied at 16 apiece, but after that it was all Duke as they staged a 24 run to, close out the half.
Right, and Duke playing Stanford, I believe tonight for a berth in the Final Four. But this is a Vanderbilt team that's not losing anyone, particularly Jordan Coleman, the only senior on the team, and she saw her minutes decrease as the season went on. It's a team that returns its entire core, all of the starters. I think we can expect big things from this team that spent a lot of the year ranked in the top 25.
Mm-hmm. And if you follow Hoop Girls at all, ESPN Hoop Girls, they tabbed the Vanderbilt recruiting class number 17 in the country. Wow. So you'll return a core of 10 girls, all 5 starters, with the number 17 ranked class in the country. Melanie Balcom said after the Duke game, it was a disappointing loss, but we have a lot to look forward to with our program. Absolutely.
Another team on West End with a lot to look forward to, the football team, opened up spring practice last week. They got another one going on right now, but some news and notes, I guess, from it. We previously discussed Chris Quintero and Josh Grady moved from quarterback positions. Grady moved to a slot receiver. Quintero moved to an H-back tight end sort of hybrid position. According to Reed Harris, our guy out on the field there, Quintero has looked great at his new position, showing soft hands, a lot of speed, a lot of athleticism. Also, LaFonte Thurgood, another former quarterback, has been getting a lot of reps at halfback and fullback, where we may see him as sort of a pass-catching fullback out of the backfield.
And Coach Franklin said one of the biggest problems for this team right now will be depth. They're down a lot of guys. Vanderbilt always has a tough time fielding 2 teams. So with this added depth on offense, it's going to mean a lot to this team.
Right, absolutely. And the line's still shuffling a few guys around after the dismissals of Logan Stewart and Mylan Brown. That's going to be something to look at moving forward. Another thing to look at, the quarterback battle that's brewing between Jordan Rogers and Austin Carter-Samuels. Josh Grady obviously moved to receiver. We believe Patton Robinette is going to be redshirted this year. But Austin Carter-Samuels has looked phenomenal out on the field, got great zip to his throws. It's certainly going to be a battle this spring and something to look forward to as we get closer to the season.
Yeah, and one of our bold predictions for this year is possibly Austin Carter-Samuels stealing that starting position away from Jordan Rogers.
Right.
I talked to Coach Franklin after spring practice, and he said, Jordan is much better at making decisions right now, but Austin Carter-Samuels' accuracy is on target, and like you said before, a lot of pop on that ball. So,
and as we see him develop his decision-making, he is just technically a sophomore in football terms, but as Kristen said, it's going to be one of our hashtag bold predictions. So I think it's probably time to get into those. The first one, of course, Austin Carter-Samuels will be your starting quarterback August 30th against South Carolina. I don't think there's much explanation there that we need. He looks like an NFL quarterback. It's just a matter of whether he can learn the playbook fast enough and get his decision-making up to par, because he certainly has all the tools to be one of the best starting quarterbacks in the SEC. Our second one, talking about that South Carolina game, the Commodores are going to win August 30th, Thursday night, opening up the college football season with a Vanderbilt win and a 1-0 start for the second year in a row.
Yeah, and our last one, we think that Vanderbilt may win the SEC East this year.
Right. Not just may, they have a good shot at it. Only Georgia has an easier schedule this year than Vanderbilt. We avoid playing Alabama, LSU, and Arkansas. So really it's going to come down to 2 games there. That first game against South Carolina and the date in week 4 at Georgia. It's going to be in Athens. Tough game, and a Georgia team that returns a lot of its players, but it's returning a lot of its players from a team that nearly lost to Vanderbilt last year in Vanderbilt Stadium. So that's going to be another exciting matchup to watch. And really, you got to believe that those 3 teams are going to be battling for that SEC East crown this year. And maybe the Commodores get an appearance in the Georgia Dome come December. It would be the first time that's ever happened. But the schedule certainly lends itself to that kind of optimistic talk coming from us. Lastly, I guess we're going to take a look at what else is going on in Vanderbilt sports this week. Your baseball team playing Tennessee Tech at 6:30 tonight. And then, of course, the weekend series with South Carolina coming up. Also at Hawkins Field. Your women's lacrosse team, off a defeat to #1 Northwestern, going to be playing at New Hampshire tomorrow. And then Kristen has some news on the soccer team, I believe.
Yeah, the soccer team, much like the football team right now, they're involved in spring practice. First game was last Saturday. Having a lot of trouble right now. They're actually battling a lot of injuries. So after talking to some of the players on the team, they said this is going to be a rebuilding season right now. So the spring games are just a chance for them to kind of see where they're going to shift some players and see who can step up in the leadership role.
Absolutely. And last but not least, your club hockey team, the I-40 face-off in Bridgestone Arena this weekend against the University of Tennessee Volunteers. It is free for all students. Going to be Saturday. Noon? I think it's noon. Might want to check VanderbiltHockey.com for that one. Producer Megan in my ear told me it's 1 o'clock, not noon. So hope to see you there. Last year's game was just phenomenal. Bunch of fights for those of you that watch hockey for that, including my roommate Mike Nisbet knocked out a Tennessee player. So we're looking for a repeat performance there. But we hope to see you there, and we hope to see you next week, same place, same time. So for Chris and Sheft, I'm Jackson Martin. Thanks for watching VU Sports Wired. We'll see you next time.